The human weakling, the son of Virex 9, was red and cruel. It burned over the cracked stone of the alien war academy. Here, warriors from all over the galaxy trained big, strong, and fast creatures, but among them was one strange student, a human. His name was Jackson Rell, and to the aliens he was a joke. "Look at the earthworm," shouted a reptilian cadet named Grell. The others laughed loudly. Their voices echoed through the stone walls of the academy yard. Jackson stood alone, sweat pouring down his face. His training armor was too loose, his muscles too soft. He had failed the obstacle course again. The alien drill master, a tall insectoid named Krevax, shook his head in disgust. "Humans are not warriors," Krevax snapped. "Why are you even here, Jackson?" Jackson didn't speak. He only nodded, picked up his training rod, and got back into line. Inside he felt like breaking, but he didn't. Not yet. He trained every day. While others slept, he ran laps. While others laughed, he read manuals. While others mocked him, he quietly repeated drills until his body ached. Still, no one respected him. One day, during a squad simulation in the jungle domes, Jackson's group was ambushed. It was just a test, but the alien squad leader, a proud feline warrior named Tyrax, blamed Jackson for their loss. "You moved too slow. Because of you, we failed," Tyrax snarled. "I did my part," Jackson said softly. Tyrax growled and shoved him. "Weakling." The trainers didn't defend Jackson. Instead, they gave him a punishment: solo exploration. "There is an old wrecked ship in Sector 13, Krevax said. "It's nothing but rust and dust. Go there, search it, prove you're good for something." Jackson nodded. He didn't complain. But inside he felt something burning, a silent fire. The journey to Sector 13 was long. The path crossed dry hills, dangerous valleys, and collapsed tunnels. No one had visited the wreck in decades. Some said it was cursed. After hours of walking, Jackson reached the broken ship. It was half buried in sand, tilted to one side. Its hull was made of dark, unknown metal. Symbols were carved along the side, none he had ever seen before. He stepped. Inside it was cold, silent. The air smelled old, like metal and dust. His flashlight flickered against broken walls and shattered panels. It felt wrong, but also important. As he walked deeper, strange things happened. His flashlight glitched. He heard faint whispers, like old voices from far away. And then he found the chamber. It was round, deep inside the ship, behind a door that opened only when he touched it. Inside stood a strange pod. It was shaped like a tall egg, glowing faint blue. Curious, Jackson stepped closer. Suddenly a voice echoed around him, robotic, ancient, cold. "Genetic match, found. Host identity, human, accepted. Initiating armor protocol." Jackson jumped back in fear. The pod hissed open, and inside was a suit of armor. Not just any armor. It was black, smooth, and shimmered like liquid metal. It didn't look like it was built. It looked like it grew. And then it moved. The armor reached toward him like it was alive. Jackson should have run, but something in his chest said no. This was meant for him. Slowly, carefully, he placed his hand on the armor. It wrapped around him. In seconds, the suit connected to his body. He felt a shock, then warmth, then silence. The armor adjusted to his shape. It felt light, but powerful. Jackson took a breath. He didn't know what this was, but deep inside, he felt something he hadn't felt in a long time. Hope. Then the voice returned, clearer now inside his mind. "Welcome, Warden. Systems online, power level 9%. Awaiting command." Jackson didn't know what to say, but one thing was certain. He wasn't just a weak human anymore. And when he returned to the Academy, no one would laugh again. Echoes in the ship. The old spaceship groaned like a sleeping giant as Jackson moved deeper into its belly. The armor on his body shimmered in the dark, pulsing softly with a faint blue light. It wasn't just armor. It was alive. He could feel it in his skin, hear it in his mind. The voice, calm, ancient, almost human, spoke again inside his head. Warning. Intrusion protocols detected. Unauthorized presence activating defense sequence. What does that mean? Jackson whispered, gripping the wall. Enemies are waking. Suddenly the lights above him blinked red. Loud clicking sounds echoed through the metal corridors like claws tapping against steel. Jackson turned, heart racing. From the shadows, shapes began to rise. They were not alive. Not truly. Ancient security drones, long forgotten, began crawling from the walls like spiders. Their red eyes glowed with the fire of old commands. Jackson ran. He sprinted through the curved halls of the ship, armor guiding his path. The suit whispered, directions, showing glowing paths on his helmet's visor. Left turn, duck, jump, roll. Without the armor, he would have been caught in seconds. The drones were fast. Their legs clicked like knives and their bodies moved like liquid metal. But Jackson was faster. The armor didn't just protect him, it moved with him. Every step felt smooth. Every corner, easy. He wasn't weak anymore. He was becoming something else, something more. He burst into a room filled with glass pods. Each one had a frozen skeleton inside, alien bodies, long dead. They wore the same black armor, but theirs was cracked, faded, incomplete. Jackson's armor shimmered brighter. You were the last compatible host, the others failed. He stared at the fallen warriors. They had been strong. Their bones were bigger than his, but none of them had survived the connection with the armor. Only Jackson had. You have a rare trait. Human willpower. He didn't feel proud. He felt scared. Why him? Why now? But there was no time for answers. The door behind him exploded. 3 drones entered, taller than the others. These were elite. Their arms turned into plasma blades. They charged. Jackson moved without thinking. The armor responded faster than thought. It shifted, forming a shield on one arm and a blade on the other. He blocked the first attack, spun, and struck the second drone through the chest. Sparks flew. Metal screamed. The third drone stabbed, but the armor absorbed the blow. Then it released an energy pulse that sent the machine flying into the wall. Jackson stood alone again, breathing hard. The armor spoke once more. Combat performance acceptable. Memory fragments unlocking. Suddenly, images flashed in his mind. A great war. A galaxy in flames. A race of beings. Tall, proud, wearing this same armor. Fighting to the last breath. Then darkness. Jackson dropped to one knee, gripping his head. What did I just see? He whispered. The past. You are now part of our legacy. He looked up at the wall. There was a mural, partly burned, showing humans standing beside those same ancient warriors. Not as servants, as equals. Jackson's breath caught in his throat. This ship belonged to the warden class, and you are the final warden. The ship began to shake again. A deep rumble echoed across the floor. Stability failing. Power core damaged. You must leave. Jackson nodded and began running back the way he came. As he moved, the armor guided him, opening doors with its signal. Lights turned on ahead of him. Drones deactivated as he passed. The ship knew him now. But just as he reached the exit, something stopped him. A mirror panel, cracked, dusty, but still reflecting. He looked at himself. A boy once called weak, now standing in armor that could crush stone and command machines. He didn't feel like a joke anymore. He felt like something new. Like destiny had chosen him. Outside, the red sun of Virex 9 was setting. Shadows crawled across the desert floor. Jackson stepped out of the wreck. In the far distance, the War Academy's tower glowed under the sun's last light. He clenched his fists. Tomorrow, he would return, but he wouldn't come back as the weak human they once knew. He would return as something they had never seen before, a warden. The armor awakens. The desert winds howled as Jackson crossed back into the academy gates. Dust clung to his boots. His body ached, but the armor, now hidden beneath a cloak, moved with quiet power. No one noticed the change in him. Not yet. Inside the academy halls, alien cadets bragged about kills in training, arm wrestled with heavy arms and shot glances at Jackson as he passed. "Hey, earthworm," sneered Zarnok, a massive reptilian with 4 arms and glowing eyes. "Back from your nap in the trash ship?" Jackson paused. He didn't respond. Just walked by. Zarnok blinked. Something about the human felt different. Later that evening, Jackson entered the training chamber. He stood before the automated strength machine, the same one that had mocked him weeks ago, flashing red for weak. He placed his hand on it, analyzing. The machine buzzed. Gears whirred. Then something unexpected happened. The screen flashed. New record. Human. Level 7.6. Gasps echoed around the room. Kravax, the instructor, stormed over. "What is this? No human scores that high." Jackson didn't answer. The armor under his skin hummed. Quietly, deeply. The power wasn't just physical. It was ancient. It flowed like a river beneath his flesh. That night, in the empty dorms, Jackson stood before the mirror. The armor extended across his body, shining black with veins of blue light. But now, it spoke again. Clearly, calmly. "Warden, armor synchronization at 40%. Additional functions unlocking. Strength enhancement, reflex boosters, language, adaptation, combat memory injection." Jackson gripped the edge of the bed. "Why me? Why a human?" "Because your kind was the last hope." Suddenly the room began to glow. The armor projected holograms around him. It showed ancient battles, alien heroes, and humans, fighting beside them. But in one scene, betrayal. The other species turned on the humans. The alliance broke. The war was lost, and the warden armor was buried until Jackson found it. Back in the training grounds, Zarnok couldn't accept Jackson's record. He stomped to the center of the yard and roared, "I challenge the earthworm!" The crowd of cadets gathered. Kravax raised a brow. "Human, do you accept?" Jackson stepped forward. Calm. "I accept." The arena cleared. Aliens crowded the walls. Everyone expected Jackson to be flattened in seconds. Zarnok laughed. "Don't break too fast, weakling." Jackson pulled back the cloak. The armor revealed itself, sliding over his body like black fire. Silence. Even Kravax stared, stunned. That isn't Academy tech." Jackson's eyes glowed faint blue. Zarnok attacked. It happened in a flash. Zarnok's first punch missed. Jackson sidestepped, then used the armor's pulse to push the alien back. Zarnok growled and came again, 4 arms flying. Jackson blocked 2, dodged 1, and caught the last midair. The crowd gasped. With a twist, Jackson flipped Zarnok onto the ground. The sand exploded under his body. Before Zarnok could rise, a glowing blade formed on Jackson's arm, pointed at his throat. "I yield," Zarnok cried. The entire yard fell into stunned silence. No one laughed at Jackson now. Kravax approached slowly. "That armor, and it's not of this era." "It found me," Jackson replied, "and I accepted it." "What is your goal now?" the insectoid instructor asked, voice low. Jackson looked up at the twin moons above. "To understand who I am now, and why this armor chose me." That night, as Jackson walked back to his dorm, the armor whispered one last thing. Phase 2 complete. Your real test begins soon. And far above, in a dark corner of the galaxy, a signal had been sent. The armor's awakening had been noticed. And something ancient was coming. Secrets of the ancients. In the cold hours before dawn, Jackson sat alone on the edge of the Academy's cliff looking at the stars. The armor, now fully bonded to his body, pulsed gently under his skin. It felt like a heartbeat. Not his, but something older, something buried in the bones of the galaxy. "You are not just wearing the armor," said the voice of Vorax, the AI inside it. "You are connected to the history of a forgotten empire." Jackson's hands trembled slightly. "Tell me everything." Suddenly, the air shimmered around him. The armor projected a huge 3D map into the sky, hovering stars, dead systems, lost colonies. It showed a galaxy that had once known peace, kept by the Warden Order. Humans had not just fought in this empire. They had led it. They had been chosen, but they were betrayed. 3 great species, the Varn, the Keltrax, and the Ashari, feared human emotion, human fire. They called it dangerous, unstable. So they turned against them, destroyed their cities, erased their names. Only a few wardens survived, and the last of them hid the armor, waiting for a worthy soul. Jackson clenched his fists. "And now they'll come for me, won't they?" "Yes," the armor replied. "They already know you live." Inside the academy, the instructors had begun to whisper. Kravax studied satellite, reports of strange signals coming from the wreckage site. He looked at old star maps and saw something that chilled his blood. The ship Jackson found? It wasn't just old. It was pre-galactic war, and it had activated a beacon. Meanwhile, Jackson felt something strange. The armor was calling him again, guiding him. That night, he sneaked out of the dorms, followed the glowing lines on his visor, to a hidden vault deep beneath the academy. A locked door waited at the end. No keypad, no scanner, only a stone circle with a handprint. He placed his hand on it. DNA confirmed. Warden Jackson Rell. Vault access granted. The door opened. Inside, he found a crystal, floating in the air, spinning slowly. The moment he touched it, time bent. His mind was pulled into a memory not his own. He stood in a council chamber surrounded by tall, powerful warriors. Their faces were hidden, but their voices rang with emotion. "We must preserve the order. Only the humans can carry the flame. Let the armor sleep. One day, it will awaken when we are dust." Then it faded. Jackson gasped, falling to one knee. Back, in the real world, the crystal shattered. A glowing sigil burned into the air and vanished. His armor changed slightly. More symbols appeared on his chest plate. The color deepened. Power surged through him. Legacy mode unlocked. "You now carry the Warden memory imprint. The past lives in you." Jackson's thoughts were no longer only his own. He saw how the war really ended. He saw how humanity was erased not because they were weak, but because they were too strong. The next morning, the alien cadets stared as Jackson walked through the halls. They felt the shift. He didn't walk like a trainee anymore. He walked like someone who knew the truth of the stars. Tyrax, the feline cadet who once bullied him, stepped forward. "What are you becoming, human?" Jackson looked at him calmly. "Not what... who? I'm becoming what your ancestors feared." No one dared stop him. In the command tower, Kravax watched a live feed. "Sir," a tech officer whispered, 3 unknown ships have entered the system, unmarked, silent, moving toward the academy. Kravax's mandibles clicked in fear. They're not pirates. They're hunters. That night, Jackson stood at the edge of the training grounds, the armor glowing brighter than ever, and in the sky, 3 burning dots appeared, ships falling. Like stars, the hunters had arrived. Not for war, not for peace. They had come to erase the Warden before he could rise again. The uprising begins. The first hunter ship broke through the clouds like a falling god. Black as space and silent as death, it landed outside the War Academy with a slow hiss. Then 2 more followed, forming a triangle of doom. Sirens never rang. Because these ships didn't trip alarms, they weren't meant to invade, they were meant to erase. Inside the command tower, Kravax gripped the edge of the control table. His voice trembled. "Evacuate the cadets, seal the armory." And for the star's sake, don't challenge them. The Academy's high officers didn't argue. They had read about hunter-class exterminators, created not to fight enemies, but to hunt ancient threats. Now, one walked the Academy grounds, and his name was Jackson Rell. Outside, wind howled across the training field. Jackson stood still, armor fully formed around his body, chest glowing with the sigil of the Warden Order. Around him, alien cadets ran for shelter. He didn't move. He waited. Then they came. 3 tall beings stepped out from the ships. They didn't wear armor, they were armor. Living metal, no eyes, no words, just motion. They walked toward Jackson with the silence of machines that had ended empires. The largest raised an arm, a weapon like a blade and cannon merged into one. Target, Warden host detected. Termination authorized. Jackson stepped forward. Then come. The first blast hit like a meteor. A white-hot beam of light roared toward him. Jackson's armor reacted instantly, forming a kinetic shield. The ground exploded around him, but he stood firm. His boots sank into the dirt. The Warden armor flared with energy. He charged. Faster than he had ever moved, he leapt into the air and brought down a glowing fist on the first hunter's head. Though impact shook the earth, the hunter fell back, dented but not destroyed. The second came at him with a spinning blade arm. Jackson ducked, rolled, and launched a plasma spike from his shoulder. The hunter stumbled, but then the third one grabbed him. Electricity surged through Jackson's suit. Systems blinked. Warning! Systems disrupted. Armor locking. No! Jackson roared. The armor shimmered, and then changed. It grew sharper, darker. A new core lit up in his chest, burning purple. Adaptive protocol unlocked, combat override mode. Jackson broke free with a burst of energy that blew all 3 hunters back. The entire Academy watched from a distance, even Kravax. Suddenly, the cadets who once mocked Jackson began to believe. He's fighting them alone, Tyrax whispered. Grell, the reptilian, stared in shock. And he's winning. Some cadets stepped forward, not to run, but to help. Back on the battlefield, the hunters regrouped. New threat level, Tier 0. Full annihilation mode, engaged. Their bodies changed. Arms turned into cannons. Wings grew. They lifted into the air and aimed at the Academy. They weren't just here for Jackson now. They would erase the entire place. Jackson stood between the hunters and the Academy walls. He whispered, "I won't let you hurt them." He raised both arms. The armor roared. 2 massive energy wings burst from his back. Then he flew. The air battle lit the sky. Explosions. Speed. Power. The hunters had numbers and weapons, but Jackson had something they didn't. Will. Every time they knocked him down, he rose. Every time they tried to end him, he struck back harder. The cadets below began to cheer. Some grabbed weapons and fired at the hunters, helping Jackson. One shouted, "He's not an earthworm." Another, "He's one of us now." Even Kravax stepped into the yard with a cannon and blasted at the enemy. Finally, Jackson brought the last hunter crashing into the ground with a charged strike. The ship behind it exploded as its core overloaded. The other 2 hunters tried to retreat, but Jackson shot into the sky like lightning and sliced one in half. The third vanished into hyperspace, defeated, but watching. Silence returned. Smoke curled from the ruins. Jackson landed on cracked stone. His armor dimmed. And for the first time bowed his head, like it had completed something sacred. Kravax approached slowly. "You could have left," the instructor said. Jackson shook his head. "This academy is my home now." Kravax looked at the ruined field. "No. It is your fortress now." From that day, no one called him weak. No one laughed. They called him the Warden. But far away, in a hidden empire, other ancient forces had begun to stir. The last Warden had risen, and not everyone was happy about it. The human legacy. The academy was no longer just a training ground. After the battle, it became something else, a symbol. Where once aliens mocked humans, now they whispered Jackson's name with awe. But Jackson didn't rest. He stood alone inside, the memory vault beneath the wrecked warship, armor glowing in quiet pulses. Vorax, the ancient AI within the suit, had something new to show him. You have triggered the Warden lineage. Memory level 3 unlocked. A circle of light formed around him, and once again Jackson was pulled into a living vision. He stood on a battlefield of the past, on a planet with blue sand and silver skies. Armies clashed. Explosions painted the heavens. At the center was a human warden wearing the same armor Jackson now wore. But this warden was not alone. Aliens fought beside him, not as enemies, but as brothers. Then the sky turned dark. A massive ship the size of a moon descended. The Allies panicked, and then betrayal. The Keltrax and Ashari turned their weapons against the humans. The warden stood his ground, but was overwhelmed. The last command before darkness was, "If humanity falls, let one rise again, even if it takes 1,000 years." Jackson gasped and stumbled back. Back in the vault, he breathed heavily. That was the fall of Arak Prime, Vorax said. It marked the end of the Warden era, until you. Jackson clenched his fists. They feared us because we didn't give up. Because your kind had what the others lost, choice. You can protect, or you can destroy. Jackson stood tall. Then I choose to protect. Above ground, the Academy's leaders gathered for a crisis meeting. Kravax spoke first. The Hunter attack proves a hidden empire still watches from the dark. Commander Taraka, a crystalline being, hissed, "And this human is a beacon. Wherever he goes, war may follow." "But he saved us," said Tyrax, surprising everyone. "I fought with him. I saw what he is." "He's not just a soldier," added Grell. "He's a sign that the galaxy is changing." Some nodded. Others remained silent. Elsewhere on a hidden planet cloaked in shadows, 3 ancient beings watched holographic footage of Jackson's battle. "The Warden lives," one hissed. "That armor should not function anymore," said another. "Perhaps it chose too well." The leader, known only as the Shadekeeper, leaned forward. "Send the Herald. Let him test the human. If he fails, destroy the armor and the Academy." Back at the Academy, cadets no longer feared Jackson. They followed him. He taught them techniques only the armor showed him. How to fight not with rage, but with control. How to move like the ancients. Alien cadets now lined up, not to laugh, but to learn. Even Kravax trained beside him. In time, they built a new squad, a cross-species unit trained in Warden principles. They called themselves the Circle of Fire. It was more than a team. It was the beginning of a movement. One night, while meditating, Jackson felt a disturbance. The armor turned cold. A single phrase appeared on his visor. "He is coming." Then the sky above the Academy tore open in a flash of gold light. A lone figure descended, tall, masked, wearing armor older than even Jackson's, but cracked and corrupted. He landed in the arena and spoke, with a voice like grinding stone. "Warden, I was the last before you. I failed. I turned. Now I return to test your fire." Jackson stepped forward. The cadets backed away. Even Kravax whispered. No one should face him alone. Jackson tightened his fists. "I won't." Run. The duel began without warning. The Herald was fast, inhumanly fast. His blade sang with void energy. Each strike sent shockwaves through the arena. Jackson blocked, dodged, countered. The clash lit up the night. But Jackson fought not with rage. He fought with purpose. Every time he was knocked down, he remembered the ancient Warden's message. Rise, again, even if it takes 1,000 years. And rise he did. With a cry that shook the stars, Jackson unleashed the armor's true core. A beam of pure Warden light exploded from his chest, striking the Herald and tearing away the corruption. The Herald fell to his knees. "I see now," he whispered. "You are not the end. You are the return." And then he vanished into light. The cadets ran to Jackson. He stood tall, chest plate steaming, breathing heavy, but smiling. He had passed the final test. But far across the galaxy, ships were already moving. The real war was about to begin. The rise of the Warden. The stars were not still anymore. They moved, slowly, like giants waking from deep sleep. From the outer rim of the galaxy, a fleet had begun to gather. Black ships shaped like knives and serpents, their engines burning with forbidden energy. The ancient alliance, Keltrax, Varn, and Ashari, had seen the signs. The Warden had returned, and they feared what would come next. Back on Virex 9, the Academy had changed. Towers once dull were now covered in banners, red, gold, and deep blue, the colors of the old Warden order. Alien cadets trained harder, side by side with each other. There was no more mocking, no more shame. There was only preparation, because they knew war was coming, and they followed him. Jackson Rell. He stood at the top of the Tower of Flame, armor glowing beneath his cloak. The stars above burned brighter than usual. Vorax's voice echoed inside his mind. The Armada approaches, 2 days until impact. Estimate 500 warships, elite ground legions, 4 dreadnoughts. Jackson didn't flinch. We hold the line. You cannot win with firepower alone. I know, Jackson replied. That's why I won't fight alone. In the Grand Assembly Chamber, Jackson stood before the Academy's council, Kravax Taraka, and leaders of every major species on the planet. Some were old enemies. Now they all listened. I was mocked here, Jackson said. I was pushed down, called weak. But the Warden armor chose me not for strength but for will. He stepped forward. You all fear the coming storm, so do I. But I won't kneel, and I won't run. I ask you not to follow me. I ask you to stand with me, as one, as the new Wardens. Silence. Then Kravax stepped forward. I mocked him first. Now I follow him. Then Grell, then Tyrax, then others, and the chamber erupted with voices. To the Warden, to unity, to the last flame of hope. 2 days later, the sky shattered. The enemy armada arrived in orbit. Their dreadnoughts blocked the sun and they sent a message. Surrender the Warden or be erased. Jackson stood on the Academy walls, his armor fully awakened now, no longer sleek black, but a brilliant storm of silver, gold, and fire. Send your best, he answered. I'm ready. The battle began. The sky became a battlefield. Alien fighters swarmed like insects. Defense turrets roared. Cadets and mechs fought alongside alien beasts. Kravax led a ground charge. Tyrax leapt from wall to wall like lightning. And in the heart of it all, Jackson flew. He punched through dropships. He shattered enemy walkers. Every time he fell, he rose. Until he reached the dreadnought. He landed on its surface like a comet. Inside waited the supreme commander of the Alliance, a being made of shifting metal and shadow. Its voice was made of 1,000 stolen minds. You are the last mistake, it said. The last spark. No, Jackson whispered. I'm the first flame. They clashed. The battle inside the dreadnought was brutal. Walls cracked. Power surged. The ship tilted in orbit. Jackson took hit after hit, but never fell. The armor sang, with ancient power, remembering every Warden before him. At the final moment, Jackson reached deep into the suit's core. He found something buried there. Final protocol, Galaxy Flame Initiative. Are you sure? Vorax asked. Yes. He released the armor's full energy, not as a weapon, but as a signal. A pulse flew through space. Not of war, of awakening. Across the galaxy, ancient vaults unlocked. Long-lost suits of Warden armor blinked to life. Forgotten worlds lit up. New voices heard the call. Humans, aliens, hybrids. All felt it. The Warden legacy was alive, not just in Jackson but in anyone with the heart to stand. The dreadnought exploded in light, but Jackson didn't die. The armor shielded him, carrying him back to the academy like a meteor wrapped in gold. Fire. He landed in the courtyard. Smoke rose behind him. The battle was over. The war had just begun. The cadets gathered, leaders bowed, and above in the sky, new ships were already heading toward Virex. Not enemies, allies. They had heard the call. The galaxy had a new warden order now, and at the center of it all was a human once called weak. Jackson looked at the horizon. The legacy had returned, and he was ready to lead.